The late afternoon sun pours in through the large windows of our suburban home, casting long shadows across the living room. The house is quiet, too quiet. I can hear the faint hum of traffic outside, but it's as if the walls are absorbing all the noise, leaving me in an eerie stillness. My fingers drum against the cool surface of the coffee table, a restless rhythm matching the unease gnawing at my gut. I check my watch again. Kate should have been home an hour ago. I try not to let the worry sink in, but the creeping sense of something being wrong is undeniable. She's never this late without calling. My phone buzzes on the table, jolting me from my thoughts. It's a text from Kate, running late. Be home soon. Don't wait up. I stare at the message, the words feeling more like a command than a suggestion. The tension in my chest tightens as I read it again, then a third time. Something's off. I know my wife too well, and this doesn't feel right. My mind races, recalling the last few weeks. The late-night texts, the sudden business meetings, the way she's been distant, distracted. The excuses. I shake my head, trying to push the thoughts away, but they cling to me like a stubborn fog. I get up, pacing the room, my gaze falling on the keys to the new car I bought her a few months ago. Kate had been so excited when I surprised her with it, a sleek, red convertible that she'd always dreamed of. But now, even the thought of that car fills me with an inexplicable dread. Finally, I grab the keys and head out the door. The fresh air hits me like a slap, but it does nothing to clear my head. I need to do something, anything, to get rid of this awful feeling. I get into my car, the engine roaring to life, and drive aimlessly through the neighborhood. As I round a corner near the edge of town, something catches my eye. It's Kate's car, parked at the far end of a deserted lot behind a strip of closed-up shops. My heart skips a beat, then begins to pound furiously in my chest. I pull over, killing the engine and staring at the car from a distance. The top is down, and from where I'm sitting, I can see two silhouettes inside. The top is down, steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turn white. I feel a rush of emotions, anger, fear, betrayal, but it's like they're all fighting for space inside me, leaving me paralyzed. I take a deep breath and get out of my car, moving quietly towards them, keeping to the shadows. I'm close enough now to hear them, and the sound hits me like a punch in the gut. Laughter, hushed voices, the unmistakable sounds of intimacy. The man's voice is low, smooth, definitely not mine. Kate's giggle floats through the air, and it's a sound I haven't heard from her in months. Not with me, at least. I can't take it anymore. I step out of the shadows, my footsteps loud against the gravel. The sounds from the car stop abruptly, and I see Kate sit up, her eyes wide with shock as she spots me. Jason, she gasps, scrambling to cover herself. The man beside her, a tall, broad-shouldered guy I've never seen before, looks just as stunned, but there's a smirk playing on his lips that makes my blood boil. What the hell is this, Kate? My voice comes out rough, like sandpaper, but I can't help it. My heart is pounding so loudly I can barely hear my own words. Jason, I can explain, she starts, but I cut her off. Explain? I laugh, but there's no humor in it. Explain what, exactly? How you're screwing some guy in the car I bought you? Her face pales, and for a moment, she looks like the woman I married, scared, vulnerable. But then she glances at the man beside her, and something shifts in her eyes. It's like she hardens, deciding something right in front of me. You don't understand, she says, her voice colder now. We haven't been happy for a long time, Jason. You know that. I blink, caught off guard by the sudden change in her tone. So this is your solution? Cheating on me? In public? Have you lost your mind? The man in the car shifts, leaning back casually, his smirk growing wider. Maybe you should have paid more attention to your wife, pal, he says, his voice dripping with arrogance. I lunge forward before I can stop myself, yanking open the car door. The man jumps out, but I'm on him before he can react. My fist connects with his jaw, sending him stumbling backward. Kate screams, but I barely hear her. All I can see is red, anger, betrayal, the overwhelming need to hurt this man, to hurt them both. He recovers quickly, throwing a punch that catches me on the side of the face. Pain explodes in my head, but I ignore it, driving my shoulder into his gut and tackling him to the ground. We grapple in the dirt, trading blows, but I have the upper hand, rage fueling my every move. Stop it! Jason, stop! Kate's voice cuts through the chaos, but I can't stop. Not yet. The man finally goes limp beneath me, groaning as I shove him away. I stand over him, my chest heaving, my fists aching from the force of my punches. Kate is crying now, standing beside the car, her clothes disheveled, her face streaked with tears. "What have you done?" she whispers, looking at me like I'm a monster. "What have I done?" I shout, pointing at the wreckage of the car, the broken glass glittering on the ground from where we smashed into it during the fight. "What the hell have you done, Kate?" She doesn't answer, just looks away, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The man on the ground groans again, trying to push himself up, but I kick him back down, the anger still simmering just below the surface. "This isn't over," I say, my voice low and deadly. Not by a long shot. I turn away from them, walking back to my car. My mind is racing, thoughts tumbling over each other in a chaotic mess. This isn't just a betrayal, it's an attack on everything we had, everything I thought we were. As I drive away, I don't look back. The image of Kate with that man is burned into my mind, a scar that won't heal. But I know one thing for sure, I'm not going to let this go. Not now, not ever. The road ahead is dark, but I can see where it's leading. And I'm ready to follow it to the bitter end. The adrenaline from the fight lingers, thrumming in my veins as I drive home. The silence inside the car is deafening, only broken by the occasional clink of loose change in the cup holder or the hum of the tires against the asphalt. I keep glancing at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see Kate or that bastard following me, but there's nothing. Just the empty road stretching out behind me. When I pull into the driveway, the house looms in front of me, its familiar shape now feeling like a stranger. The warm light spilling from the windows feels fake, like it's trying too hard to convince me that everything inside is just as it should be. But it's not. It hasn't been for a long time. I sit in the car for a moment, trying to gather my thoughts. What do I even do now? The anger has started to ebb, leaving behind a cold, hard knot of betrayal. The images of Kate and that man flash through my mind again, and I feel a fresh surge of rage. But it's not just at them, it's at myself, too. How did I let it get this far without noticing? The sound of footsteps on gravel snaps me out of my thoughts. I turn to see my neighbor, Mrs. Green, hobbling towards me, her ever-present cane tapping against the ground. She's in her 70s, sharp as a tack, and nosy as hell. "Jason, is everything all right?" she asks, her voice tinged with concern. She peers at me through her thick glasses, her brows furrowed. I force a smile, though I'm sure it looks more like a grimace. "Everything's fine, Mrs. Green. Just had a rough day, that's all." She doesn't look convinced, but she nods anyway. "If you say so. I just saw you pull up and thought I'd check in. Haven't seen Kate around much lately. Everything okay with her?" My stomach twists at the mention of Kate's name, but I keep my voice steady. "Yeah, she's just been busy with work. You know how it is." Mrs. Green's eyes narrow slightly, and I can tell she's not buying it. "Well, if you need anything, you know where I am. Don't be a stranger, all right?" "Thanks, Mrs. Green. I appreciate it." I nod, and she finally turns to shuffle back towards her house, glancing over her shoulder once more before disappearing inside. I let out a long breath and finally get out of the car. The house feels colder than it should when I step inside, the silence oppressive. I head straight for the kitchen, needing something to take the edge off. The whiskey in the cabinet calls to me, and I pour a generous amount into a glass, downing it in one go. The burn in my throat is a welcome distraction from the chaos in my head. I'm pouring a second glass when the front door creaks open. I freeze, my heart leaping into my throat. It's too soon for Kate to be home unless she's coming to face the music. But when I hear the voice, it's not hers. Jason? You home? It's Pete, my best friend since college. He's the kind of guy who can make you laugh even when the world's falling apart, but tonight I'm not sure even he can help. In the kitchen, I call back, setting the glass down. Pete appears a moment later, his usually laid-back demeanor replaced with a frown as soon as he sees my face. Jesus, man, what happened to you? He strides over, grabbing my chin and tilting my head to inspect the bruise forming on my jaw. Looks like you've been in a fight. I pull away, shaking my head. It's a long story, Pete. One I'm not sure I'm ready to tell. He doesn't press, just grabs a beer from the fridge and pops it open, leaning against the counter. All right. But you know I'm here when you are. We stand in silence for a moment, the weight of the night settling between us. I finally speak, my voice low and rough. Kate's cheating on me, Pete. His eyes widen, and he almost drops his beer. What? Are you sure? I nod, the bitter taste of the word still fresh in my mouth. Caught her with some guy in her car. I lost it. We fought. The car's trashed. I'm pretty sure I messed him up bad. Pete whistles low, shaking his head. Damn, man. I'm sorry. That's rough. He takes a swig of his beer, clearly trying to process everything. What are you gonna do? I don't know yet, I admit. I can't just let this go, Pete. I need to make them pay. Pete raises an eyebrow. Revenge? That's a dangerous game, Jason. You sure that's what you want? I clench my fists, the anger bubbling up again. They deserve it. Both of them. I gave her everything, and this is how she repays me? Pete watches me for a moment, then sighs. Look, I get it. You're hurt, and you have every right to be. But you need to think this through. Revenge, it can backfire. You might end up losing more than you gain. His words hang in the air, but they don't lessen the anger burning inside me. I can't just let them get away with it, Pete. Not after everything. Before Pete can respond, the doorbell rings, cutting through the tension. We both turn towards the sound, and a feeling of dread washes over me. Who could that be at this hour? I'll get it, Pete offers, but I shake my head, already moving towards the door. I pull it open, and my heart stops. Standing on the doorstep is Kate's sister, Emma. Her eyes are red and puffy, and she looks like she's been crying. She steps inside without waiting for an invitation, her gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that makes my stomach churn. Jason, she says, her voice trembling. We need to talk. Pete lingers in the background, unsure if he should stay or leave. I wave him off, and he nods, slipping out the back door to give us privacy. What's going on, Emma? I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. The last time I saw her, we were laughing at a family barbecue. Now, she looks like she's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Kate called me, she begins, wringing her hands. She told me what happened. Jason, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I clench my jaw, trying to keep my emotions in check. What did she tell you? Emma's eyes well up with tears, and she looks away, clearly struggling with her words. She said she's been seeing someone else. For a while now. But she never meant for it to go this far. She's scared, Jason. She's terrified of what you're going to do. Good, I snap, the anger flaring up again. She should be scared. Emma looks at me, her expression pleading. Jason, please. I'm not excusing what she did, but she's my sister. I'm just asking you to think before you do anything rash. Her words hit me like a bucket of cold water, dousing some of the flames inside me. But the pain is still there, raw and unyielding. What do you expect me to do, Emma? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. She's torn our lives apart. How am I supposed to just let that go? Emma takes a deep breath, wiping away a stray tear. I don't have all the answers, Jason. But I know you. You're a good man, and you don't deserve this. But if you go down the path of revenge, you might lose yourself. And I don't want that for you. I look at her, really look at her, and I see the pain in her eyes, the pain of someone caught in the middle of a nightmare they didn't ask for. It's the same pain I'm feeling, the same confusion, the same loss. I don't know what to do, Emma, I admit, the words heavy on my tongue. But I can't just let this slide. She steps closer, placing a hand on my arm. I'm not asking you to. But maybe there's a way to handle this that doesn't destroy everyone involved. Think about it, Jason. Please. Her words hang in the air, and for the first time since this all began, I feel a flicker of doubt. I thought revenge was the only option, the only way to make them pay for what they've done. But now I'm not so sure. Emma gives my arm a squeeze and then steps back, her eyes searching mine for any sign of what I'm thinking. I should go, she says softly. But please, Jason, promise me you'll think about what I said. I nod, though I'm not sure if I'm agreeing with her or just trying to end the conversation. She gives me a sad smile and then turns to leave, the door clicking shut behind her. I stand there for a long time, staring at the spot where she stood, my mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The anger, the pain, the desire for revenge, they're all still there, but now there's something else, something Emma's words have stirred up inside me. Doubt. And it's that doubt that keeps me rooted to the spot, unable to move, unable to decide what to do next. The path ahead is no longer as clear as it once was, and for the first time, I wonder if I'm about to make the biggest mistake of my life. The next morning, the world outside my window is washed in the pale light of dawn. I barely slept, my mind churning over Emma's words, replaying the night's events in an endless loop. The doubt she planted inside me has taken root, but it hasn't smothered the anger. If anything, the rage feels more focused now, like a blade sharpened by the night. I get up, my body moving on autopilot. There's no use lying in bed any longer, not with my thoughts gnawing at me like this. I shower, get dressed, and force down a cup of coffee, though it tastes like ash in my mouth. Pete called a few times after Emma left, but I ignored his calls. I wasn't ready to talk, not to him, not to anyone. As I sit at the kitchen table, staring blankly at the clock, my phone buzzes with a message. It's from Kate. We need to talk. Please meet me at the house. I'm coming over now. I stare at the words, my heart hammering in my chest. This is it, the moment I've been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. My fingers tremble as I set the phone down, and I push back from the table, the chair scraping against the floor with a harsh, grating sound. I know I have to face her, but the thought of seeing Kate after everything that's happened makes my stomach churn. I can't hide from this, though. I can't avoid the confrontation that's been building ever since I caught her with that man. I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself, and walk into the living room to wait. It's not long before I hear the sound of her car pulling into the driveway. My heart leaps into my throat as I stand by the window, watching her get out. She looks different somehow, though I can't pinpoint exactly how. Maybe it's the way her shoulders are slumped, or the way she hesitates before closing the car door. Maybe it's the guilt etched on her face. She walks up to the front door, and I brace myself, trying to swallow the bile rising in my throat. The door creaks open, and there she is, standing in the entryway, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy. She looks at me, and for a moment, neither of us says anything. The silence between us is thick, almost suffocating. Jason, she finally says, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. I say nothing, just watch her with a cold, unreadable expression. Inside, I'm a storm of emotions, but I refuse to let her see how much she's broken me. Kate takes a hesitant step forward, and then another, until she's standing in the middle of the living room, just a few feet away from me. She looks like she's about to collapse under the weight of her own guilt. I know I've hurt you, she continues, her voice trembling. I know there's nothing I can say to make this right, but I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted any of this to happen. My jaw tightens, and I can feel the anger rising again, threatening to spill over. Then why did you do it, Kate? Why did you throw everything away? She flinches at the harshness in my voice, but I don't care. I need answers. I need to understand how the woman I loved could betray me like this. It wasn't supposed to happen, she says, tears welling up in her eyes. It started off as just a distraction. Something to fill the void that's been growing between us. A distraction? I echo, my voice laced with disbelief. So you slept with another man to distract yourself from our problems? She nods, wiping at her eyes. I know it sounds horrible, but I was lost, Jason. We've been drifting apart for so long, and I didn't know how to fix it. I felt so alone, and when Mark came into the picture, I didn't think. I needed to feel something again. Mark, I repeat, the name of the man who shattered my life, burning like acid on my tongue. Is that who he is? Is that the man you've been sneaking around with? Kate nods again, fresh tears streaming down her face. Yes. But it wasn't supposed to go this far. I never meant for it to get out of hand. I never meant to fall for him. Her confession feels like a knife twisting in my gut. I clench my fists, trying to keep my emotions in check, but it's getting harder by the second. So, you're telling me you actually care about this guy? That it wasn't just some fling? She looks down at the floor, her shoulders shaking as she cries. I don't know what I'm saying, Jason. All I know is that I've messed everything up, and I don't know how to fix it. The room feels like it's closing in on me, the walls pressing down with the weight of everything she's saying. I can't think straight, can't breathe. I need to get out of here before I do something I'll regret. I can't do this, Kate, I say, my voice rough and strained. I can't listen to this anymore. She looks up, panic flashing in her eyes. Jason, please, don't walk away. We can talk about this. We can figure something out. But I'm already moving, pushing past her as I head for the door. There's nothing left to talk about, Kate. You made your choice. She reaches out, grabbing my arm, her grip desperate. Please, don't leave. We can work through this. I love you, Jason. I love you, and I'm so sorry. Her words hit me like a slap, but they don't have the effect she's hoping for. If anything, they make me angrier. You don't get to say that, Kate. Not after what you've done. Love doesn't justify betrayal. She lets go of my arm, crumpling to the floor in a sobbing heap. Part of me wants to turn back, to comfort her, but a larger part of me knows that if I do, I'll only be prolonging the inevitable. I reach the door, my hand on the knob, when a knock sounds from the other side. I freeze, my heart pounding in my chest. Who could it be now? I open the door, and there stands Pete, his face lined with worry. He takes one look at the scene inside, the shattered woman on the floor, the look of devastation on my face, and steps inside without a word. What the hell's going on here? He asks, his voice low and tense. Kate and I were just finishing a conversation, I say, my voice clipped. Pete glances between the two of us, and then back at me. Maybe you two should take a break. Cool off before things get any worse. There's nothing left to cool off, Pete, I say, my voice flat. It's over. Kate lets out a choked sob, but I don't look back. I can't. Pete catches my arm as I try to step past him, his grip firm. Jason, think about what you're doing. Walking away now might feel right, but is it really what you want? What I want doesn't matter anymore, I reply, pulling free. She made sure of that. Pete looks at me, his eyes searching mine for some sign of hope, some hint that I'm not beyond saving. But all he finds is the hollow emptiness that's taken root inside me. I push past him and walk out of the house, the cool morning air hitting me like a slap to the face. I don't know where I'm going, but I know I can't stay here. Not with her. not with the memories of what we had and what she destroyed. As I reach my car, I hear footsteps behind me. I turn, expecting to see Kate, but it's Pete. He's followed me outside, his expression set in grim determination. "You're not doing this alone, man," he says, his voice steady. "Whatever happens next, you're not doing it alone." I look at him, and for the first time in what feels like forever, I feel a flicker of something other than anger. Maybe it's gratitude. Maybe it's relief. Maybe it's just the realization that no matter how much Kate has hurt me, there are still people who care about me, who won't let me go down this dark path by myself. "Thanks, Pete," I say, my voice rough with emotion. "I don't know what I'm going to do, but thanks." He nods, clapping me on the shoulder. "We'll figure it out, Jason. One step at a time." I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The road ahead is still uncertain, still filled with pain and anger, but at least now I'm not facing it alone. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to keep me from falling apart completely. As we walk towards the car, the sun begins to rise higher in the sky, its rays cutting through the morning mist. The day is just beginning, and so is whatever comes next. But I'm ready to face it, ready to confront the mess my life has become. And as I climb into the car, I realize that maybe, just maybe, I'm ready to start putting the pieces back together. The days blur together after that morning. Pete sticks close by, a silent pillar of support as I navigate the wreckage of my life. Kate's texts go unanswered, her calls ignored. I throw myself into work, trying to drown the pain in busyness, but it's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The betrayal festers, feeding off my every waking thought, turning the love I once felt into a seething hatred. It's late one evening, a week after that awful morning, when the final piece of the puzzle falls into place. Pete and I are sitting on the back porch, the cool night air doing little to soothe the turmoil inside me. He's telling me about some game he watched, but I'm only half listening, my mind still circling the same dark thoughts. "Jason," Pete says, his voice cutting through my reverie. "Are you even listening?" I blink, forcing myself to focus. "Sorry, man. Just thinking." Pete nods, his expression understanding. He's about to say something when his phone buzzes on the table. He glances at the screen, and something in his face changes, just for a split second, but enough to make my stomach twist. "What is it?" I ask, my voice sharper than I intend. Pete hesitates, his eyes flicking to me and then back to his phone. "It's nothing. Just a work thing." But the way he says it, the way he's avoiding my gaze, sets off alarm bells in my head. "Pete, what's going on? You've been acting weird all week." He looks at me, and for the first time since this all began, there's a crack in his usual calm demeanor. "Jason, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." A cold dread settles over me. "What are you talking about?" He runs a hand through his hair, looking like he's about to confess to something terrible. And then he does. "Kate wasn't just cheating on you with that guy, Mark," he says, his voice heavy with guilt. "She was cheating on you with me too." The world seems to tilt, my stomach lurching as if I've been punched in the gut. I stare at him, unable to process what he just said. "What did you just say?" Pete doesn't look away this time, and that's what makes it real. His eyes are filled with regret, but also with a grim determination, as if he's been carrying this secret for too long and can't bear it any longer. "It started months ago. I never meant for it to happen, but it did. We were both in a bad place, Anne. I'm sorry, Jason. I'm so damn sorry. I feel like I'm going to be sick." The betrayal from Kate was bad enough, but this is a knife to the heart. My best friend, the one person I trusted above all others, has been lying to me, stabbing me in the back while pretending to support me. "You and Kate?" I choke out, my voice hoarse. "How could you do this to me, Pete?" "How could she?" He opens his mouth to respond, but I don't give him a chance. I lunge at him, fist swinging. All the anger, all the pain, everything I've been bottling up, comes pouring out in a violent rush. My first punch catches him on the jaw, and he stumbles back, but I'm on him before he can recover. I hit him again and again, the raw rage blinding me to everything but the need to hurt him, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain I'm feeling. Pete doesn't fight back. He just takes it, his arms coming up to shield his face, but he doesn't try to stop me. And that only makes me angrier. Fight back, damn you! I shout, slamming my fist into his ribs. You ruined my life. You took everything from me. Finally, Pete catches my wrist, his grip firm but not aggressive. Jason, stop. Please. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but this isn't going to make it better. His words slice through the red haze of my rage, and I freeze, my breath coming in ragged gasps. My knuckles are blooded, and Pete's face is bruised and bleeding, but he's still looking at me with that same damn regret. I didn't want this, he says, his voice cracking. I didn't want to hurt you. Kate and it was a mistake. A terrible, awful mistake. But I can't change what happened. All I can do is apologize and try to make it right. Make it right? I echo, my voice dripping with bitterness. How the hell do you make this right, Pete? You destroyed everything. My marriage, our friendship, all of it. There's no fixing this. He lets go of my wrist, and I stagger back, the full weight of what's happened crashing down on me. The porch feels like it's spinning, the world tilting on its axis. I collapse onto one of the chairs, burying my face in my hands. Pete stands there for a moment, unsure of what to do. Finally, he speaks, his voice barely above a whisper. I know you'll probably never forgive me, Jason. And I don't blame you. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry. I don't respond. I can't. My mind is a whirlwind of emotions, rage, betrayal, sadness, confusion. How could this have happened? How could I have been so blind? Pete hesitates, then turns and walks back into the house, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I sit there, staring out into the darkened yard, my mind numb. Hours pass. The night grows colder, and the stars come out, twinkling above me as if mocking the destruction of my life. I don't move, don't speak. I just sit there, trying to make sense of the senseless. Eventually, I hear the front door open again, and I know it's Pete returning. But when I turn, it's not him. It's Kate. She stands in the doorway, her face a mask of shock and fear as she takes in the scene, Pete's bruised face, my blooded hands. Jason, she whispers, taking a step towards me. What happened? Pete told me, I say, my voice flat. He told me everything. Her face crumples, and she covers her mouth with her hand, tears welling up in her eyes. I didn't want you to find out like this. But you didn't mind me finding out, I snap, the anger flaring up again. You didn't care what this would do to me, did you? That's not true, she protests, her voice breaking. I never wanted to hurt you, Jason. I was confused, I was lost. Save it, I cut her off, standing up so abruptly that she flinches. I don't want to hear your excuses, Kate. You and Pete, you destroyed everything we had. And for what? For some stupid fling? It wasn't just a fling, she admits, her voice barely audible. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't just that. I was unhappy, Jason. We were unhappy. And instead of talking to you, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I stare at her, the woman I once loved more than anything, now a stranger to me. You know what the worst part is, Kate. I could have forgiven you for Mark. I could have found a way to move past that. But Pete? My best friend? That's too much. That's the line. She nods, tears streaming down her face. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough, I say, my voice cold and final. We're done, Kate. There's no coming back from this. I want a divorce. I want you out of my life. And Pete, too. I never want to see either of you again. The words hang in the air, final and irrevocable. Kate stares at me, her eyes wide with shock, as if she hadn't truly believed it would come to this. But it has. There's no other way forward. She nods, her shoulders slumping in defeat. If that's what you want, I'll do it. I'll sign the papers. I'll go. Without another word, she turns and walks away, disappearing into the darkness. I watch her go, feeling nothing but emptiness inside. Pete emerges from the house, his face a mix of pain and guilt. He doesn't say anything, just looks at me with those regretful eyes, and I know this is the last time I'll see him, too. I hope you find some kind of peace, Jason, he says quietly. I really do. I don't respond. There's nothing left to say. He walks away, following Kate into the night, and I'm left alone, standing on the porch of the house that once held so much happiness, now just a hollow shell. The wind picks up, rustling the trees, and I feel a strange sense of finality settle over me. It's over. Everything is over. The life I knew, the people I trusted, it's all gone. And as I stand there, staring out into the darkness, I realize that the anger is starting to fade, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. They may have destroyed my life, but they won't destroy me. I'll rebuild. I'll start over. And I'll do it without them. Because now, there's nothing left to lose.